When Nasrin Ibrahim Traore recently released millions of animals into his newly built artificial river, the whole world was stunned for a moment. People were astonished. What kind of step was this? Normally, when artificial rivers are made around the world, fish are released into them to promote fishing. Some people create special zones for crocodiles to boost tourism. But Ibrahim Traore did something no one had expected. He didn't release crocodiles or rare fish. He chose an animal that most of the world thinks of as just a wood-gnawing pest, the beaver. But why beavers? What was Ibrahim Traore's real goal? And how could this animal transform the artificial river into not just a tourist attraction, but a living natural ecosystem? That's what we'll explore in today's video, so watch until the very end. If we look at Burkina Faso's recent history, we see a harsh truth that has made life unbearable for millions there: water scarcity. This crisis affected not only people but also crops, livestock, and even the breathing of the land itself. Entire villages had dried up. People grew tired of digging wells again and again. Women would walk miles to bring water that was often either contaminated or ran out before reaching home. In such conditions, when a child cried from thirst, a mother had no option but to pray. It reached the point where people would pawn their honor, land, and even their children for a single sip of water. Rainfall had retreated, and nature seemed angry. It was during this time that a young leader emerged, his name, Ibrahim Traore. Under his leadership, there were not just slogans but real action. One of the biggest steps was building an artificial river. Yes, when the rest of the world focused on dams and water tanks, Ibrahim thought, if natural rainfall isn't coming, why not create a new environmental system ourselves? Under this vision, a grand project began. Hundreds of kilometers of canals were dug. Land was leveled. And to store rainwater, a large artificial river was created. At first, people were skeptical, some laughed, some called it a waste of money. But after the first year, results silenced everyone. Where crops had once withered, green fields now swayed. Farmers' eyes lit up with hope. Livestock had clean water to drink. This artificial river became not just a reservoir but a symbol of new life. Children who had never seen a river before now played in the water. Farmers who once prayed for rain were now irrigating their own fields. The economy improved. People began cultivating new lands, and small businesses sprang up in surrounding areas. The government called this project a people's revolution, and Ibrahim Traore began to be seen as a savior. But every path to progress has challenges, and so it was here. At first, the river's flow was natural. The water moved continuously, the soil absorbed it, and birds sang on the banks. But over time, the flow slowed. Silt, leaves, and debris began to collect on the riverbed. In some areas, water stagnated, leading to an explosion of mosquitoes. Clean drinking water became scarce again. Where crops once thrived, waterlogging started. People complained that the water was no longer the same, and some stopped using it altogether. In some areas, greenish-blue scum began forming on the surface, an alarming sign of increasing pollution. If something wasn't done immediately, this project, which had been Burkina Faso's hope, could become a disaster. And this was the moment when Ibrahim Traore made another revolutionary decision. A simple step on the surface, but with deep natural wisdom behind it. His first move was to gather all the country's trusted environmental experts, hydrologists, and engineers in one place for hours of consultation. They studied models from other countries, places that used modern technology to keep their rivers and streams clean. Some had massive filters, pumping systems, and machines to purify water. But these methods were extremely expensive, energy-consuming, and environmentally harmful. For a resource-limited country like Burkina Faso, installing machines every few kilometers was impossible. So, Ibrahim turned once again to nature, thinking, if a problem arises from nature's imbalance, its solution must also come from nature's lap. He instructed his team, we will not burden the land, we will let it breathe. With this approach, a new research effort began in the country, and eventually, the experts found a creature that had been overlooked by humans for centuries, the beaver. The beaver is a medium-sized, rare animal usually found in North America, Europe, and a few select regions, known as nature's engineer. It builds dams by cutting down trees and arranging logs, which not only regulate water flow but also help clean it, settle pollution to the bottom, improve soil fertility, and sustain a complete aquatic ecosystem. Wherever beavers live, life returns. Ibrahim decided that instead of installing costly machines or electric plants, they would release beavers into the artificial river. This decision seemed strange, unbelievable to the world, and even laughable to locals, because they didn't know that these small, harmless-looking animals are among the most brilliant and hard-working architects of nature. Within weeks of being released along the riverbanks, the beavers began working without pause, without training, and without instructions. They gnawed on soft trees along the river, gathered branches, and mixed mud and grass to build dams. Within just a month, dozens of small natural dams had formed. These dams balanced the water's movement, prevented stagnation, and slowly settled pollutants at the bottom. A few weeks later, when experts tested water samples, they were stunned. The once foul-smelling, polluted water was now crystal clear and blue. Fish that had been dying began to return. Birds that had migrated away came back to this restored natural environment. Most importantly, people began drinking directly from the river again, without filters or machines. But it wasn't just the water. The land around the river grew greener. New grass sprouted. Local herbs began returning. And all the credit went to the beavers, quietly working day and night, never complaining, never asking for money, never consuming energy, just restoring the river's life through their natural system. Today, in Burkina Faso, school curricula include lessons about beavers. Their posters are on walls. Children hear their stories. And the world sees this model as a successful example. This was the moment the world realized, if humans become friends of nature, nature never responds with enmity. These beavers proved that solutions to humanity's biggest problems are not always in machines, but in the secrets buried within the earth itself. So, dear viewers, that was our story for today. How did you like it? Tell us in the comments, and for more interesting stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until the next video, may God protect you.